Welcome to Peza Horror Stories. If you are alone right now, turn off the lights and make sure to subscribe because by starting this video, you will not want to do anything. Just listen it deeply, put on your headphones, and prepare yourself because what you are about to hear is not just a story, it's an experience. So take a deep breath and let's begin. There was a young couple, newly married, full of dreams and excitement. Like every couple, they wanted a place of their own, a home where they could begin their new life together. After weeks of searching, they finally found it. A small apartment on the edge of the city. It wasn't too big, not luxurious, but it felt warm, quiet, and private. The rent was surprisingly cheap, almost too good to be true, and in that moment of joy, they didn't question why. The wife smiled as she looked around the empty rooms, imagining furniture, colors, laughter filling the space. The husband put his arm around her shoulder and said, "This is where our story begins." To them, the apartment was not just walls and windows. It was hope. It was a fresh start. It was happiness. But sometimes, the places that look the safest are the ones that hide the darkest secrets. At first, the couple's days were filled with laughter and hope. They decorated their little apartment, cooked meals together, and often fell asleep talking about their future. Everything seemed normal during the day, but when the night came, things began to change. It started subtly. The wife would wake in the middle of the night to the sound of faint footsteps, slow, dragging, as if someone was walking just outside their bedroom door. She would hold her breath, listening closely. But when the husband got up to check, the hallway was empty. Silence. Another night, the husband swore he heard the sound of a door creaking open, but every door in the apartment was shut. He laughed it off nervously, telling his wife, "Old building. Wood expands. It makes sounds. Nothing to worry about." And for a while they convinced themselves that it was just that, a new house settling, a trick of the mind, the natural creaks of an old apartment. But deep down, both of them felt something wasn't right. Then the small disturbances began. The wife left her phone charging on the nightstand, only to find it later in the living room. The husband kept his keys on the table every night, but in the morning, they would be lying on the floor. A mug they had just washed and placed on the shelf ended up broken on the kitchen counter, without a sound of it falling. Each time they gave themselves a reason. Maybe I forgot, maybe I dropped it, maybe we're just tired. But their excuses couldn't quiet the unease that was slowly tightening its grip on them, because deep inside, they both knew. A house doesn't move things on its own. At first, they thought the noises were strange but harmless. But soon, the nights grew darker, heavier. One evening, as the wife lay in bed half asleep, she heard it. A whisper, low, broken, almost like a voice trying to speak, but unable to form words. She sat up quickly, her eyes scanning the room. The lamp in the corner flickered, and on the wall, she swore she saw it, a shadow sliding across, even though nothing was there to cast it. The next day, when she was home alone, the feeling became worse. Everywhere she went, the kitchen, the bathroom, even the small hallway, she felt eyes on her, as if someone was standing just behind her shoulder, breathing down her neck. Her hands would tremble while making tea. Her heart would race even in the quietest moments. When she told her husband, he dismissed it at first, but even he couldn't ignore what was happening to him. He tossed and turned every night, unable to sleep, and when he did close his eyes, he would wake suddenly, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Dark circles formed under his eyes. His temper grew short, and his voice, once gentle, was now filled with irritation. The apartment that once felt like a home was slowly draining the life out of them, and in the silence of the night, the whispers grew louder. That night, the nightmare finally became real. The husband woke up with a violent jolt, his hands clutching at his throat, his eyes wide, gasping, choking, as if invisible fingers were tightening around his neck. His body thrashed against the sheets, his breath cut short and broken, desperate gasps. The wife shot up from the bed, her scream tearing through the silence. She grabbed his arms, trying to pull him free from whatever was holding him. "Wake up, breathe," she cried, her voice trembling with terror, and then they both saw it. In the far corner of the room, where the shadows were deepest, something moved, a figure, dark, formless, but tall, looming, watching. Its presence filled the room like ice water pouring into their lungs. The air grew heavy, thick, impossible to breathe, as if the very walls of the apartment were closing in on them. The wife clung to her husband as he finally broke free, gasping and coughing, his chest heaving for air. They stared together at that corner, and the figure didn't move. It just stood there silently, its outline shifting, rippling, like smoke trying to hold the shape of a man. The weight in the room was unbearable. The air pressed down on their bodies, their ears ringing with a low, unnatural hum. Every instinct screamed at them to run, but their bodies felt frozen, trapped in the grip of something beyond this world. And in that moment, they both understood. They were not imagining it. They were not safe here. Something inside that apartment wanted them, and it wasn't going to let them go. Shaking, pale, and unable to stay another second, the couple made their choice. In the dead of night, with their hearts still pounding from what they had seen, they scrambled out of bed. The wife stuffed clothes into a bag with trembling hands, while the husband grabbed their documents, phones, and whatever little money they had lying around. Neither of them spoke. They didn't dare. The silence in the apartment was crushing, and they could feel it, that thing still watching them. Every sound felt amplified. The zipper of a suitcase, the creak of the floorboards. Even their hurried breaths echoed through the rooms as if the walls themselves were alive. The wife froze at one point, swearing she heard footsteps behind her. But when she turned, nothing was there. Still, she felt the air move, as though someone had just brushed past her. Finally, without turning back, they dragged their bags to the door. The husband's hand shook as he fumbled with the lock, and for one terrifying second, the door wouldn't open, as if something was holding it shut. He pulled harder, his heart racing in his chest, and then it gave way. They ran, down the hallway, down the stairs, out into the cold night air, not once daring to look behind them. The moment they stepped outside, it was as if a weight had lifted from their chests. They could breathe again, but the fear never left them. They never returned to that apartment, not even for the things they left behind. Weeks later, while staying with relatives, they heard whispers from the neighbors of their old building. Whispers about the apartment, about families before them who had left suddenly, in the middle of the night, just like they did. No explanations, no goodbyes, only fear. And in that moment, they realized the horror that drove them away was something much older than they could ever understand. Something that was still there, waiting for whoever dared to enter next. And so, their dream apartment became nothing more than a nightmare they would never forget. It taught them a lesson carved deep into their souls. Sometimes the perfect home, the one that seems cheap and too good to be true, carries with it a price far greater than money. Not every place is meant to be lived in. Some walls remember things better left undisturbed, and some doors, once opened, never truly close again. If you ever find yourself in such a place, where the air feels heavy, where the silence feels alive, trust your instincts. Because once the darkness chooses you, it won't let go easily. This was their story, but it could happen to anyone, even you. If you felt the chill of this tale, make sure to subscribe, because more terrifying stories are waiting. And next time, the horror might be closer than you think.